everybody. It's Kellie Nissen here from Just Right Words and Right Angles Speakers Agency, re-kickstarting my author showcase series, where I'll be talking to authors about their books and about their writing lives, including where they get their inspiration from to write their stories. And today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be talking to Kate Searle, all the way from Perth in Western Australia, about her new book, My Soul Treasure, and her upcoming junior fiction book, Find Your Treasure. Welcome, Kate, to Right Angles.
Thank you, Kellie. So good to talk to you. And thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, oh, it's a great pleasure. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction of you, Kate, before we get started. So Kate Searle worked as a geologist for almost 2 decades in Western Australia and Canada. She returned to university to study law and completed her Juris Doctor, I hope I said that right, in 2019. Becoming a mother sparked Kate's love of storytelling. Kate has an innate passion for instilling children with a sense of personal empowerment and has woven her love of gemstones and nature into her debut picture book, My Soul Treasure, to teach children about the incredible powers of their own soul. Now, I love My Soul Treasure. It's so lyrical and the illustrations are absolutely gorgeous. And it's almost the perfect debut picture book. And it's just onwards and upwards from there, Kate. So let's just start. I just want to start with asking you how you actually got into writing. What started you off on that journey?
Sure, yes, because it's a different path. I didn't exactly grow up aspiring to be an author. So in some ways I find myself in a surprisingly beautiful path in my life now, because it's not as though it's something I aspired to. But that said, I definitely loved writing when I was a kid, and I loved drawing pictures. So I was always drawing pictures at home, and my mum's told me many stories of the boxes of illustrations that she had that I drew. And I actually have here to show you, Kellie, that a book that I wrote. Here it is.
Oh my God, and illustrated.
And illustrated when I was 10. So there's the cover. It opens up on both sides.
Oh, wow. So just for the people, if I turn this into a podcast as well, for the people who are just listening and can't see, Kate's book is called, her first book that she ever wrote is called My Fish Minty.
My Fish Minty. I wrote it when I was 10, and it tells a story of a little girl who was stuck at home on the school holidays and couldn't go anywhere. So she ends up having a magical adventure through her fishbowl and travels into a deep magical ocean with her fish and goes on an adventure and meets lots of different animals. And it's a funny thing that my mum found this probably about 3 years ago and gave it back to me. And I remembered how much I loved that process of writing and expressing yourself and being creative, really.
Yeah. And you did all the illustrations in the book as well?
I did, yeah. I illustrated every little picture.
Oh, wow.
And wrote, on the other side.
Now, just for everybody out there, Kate's got really neat handwriting too. That is awesome.
I was definitely what you'd call like a conscientious kid. I loved learning. I loved, everything about school. And that carried on, I guess, and through my career, I've knocked off 2 degrees, and I definitely say I love the process of learning. And but I guess how I got into writing at this stage of my life is my career was started off exciting, being a geologist. We spent a lot of time in the bush, which I loved, in nature. I got to travel around the world with my career. But then after I completed my law degree, and the role that I moved into was very office-based, and it was really interesting and challenging, but it was, it was more serious and less creative. And I think that's the part that I have really enjoyed so much in creating my books and my games, is just allowing that creative part of me to have an opportunity to, be expressed.
And it's that challenge too, like that learning curve as well, isn't it? Yes. Like if 2 degrees under your belt, what am I going to learn next? What challenge am I going to face next? It's a whole different world, isn't it? Sort of writing completely. A book and navigating that whole process from the first draft right through to that published copy that you can, the hard copy that you can hold in your hand. It's just, it's a massive journey, and you've done it so beautifully. Yes. Yeah. What would you say then is, like you hear a lot of authors, or a lot of people who talk about authors say that, that each author has their own superpower, like their thing that sets them apart from other people, that they feel really strongly about, or that they feel that they do really well. What would you say your superpower is?
I think my superpower, and I don't know if it relates to the actual process of being a writer, but I feel that when I speak to people, my children, my friends, my family, anyone that I meet, I can really see and sense the power in them, how incredibly amazing they are. And to me, it feels so evident that everyone is just so amazing.
Yeah.
And I want them to be able to feel that way about themselves as well. Like, we are all unique, and we're each gifted with what I call my soul treasure, like your soul treasure, all these amazing powers. And I feel that my superpower in a way is being able to spark that in each person. So when they read this story, it's themselves that they're thinking about, and they remember how incredibly powerful they are. Yeah. They have the power to be creative and to be happy and to be courageous and to be imaginative. And that, to me, is the gift that we each have.
And that absolutely comes through in my soul treasure. And having been lucky enough to be privy to your junior fiction book that's coming out soon, Find Your Treasure, it comes out really strongly in there as well. Like your ability to make readers feel like you're actually just talking to them personally as well, and there's something in there that everybody can relate to. So definitely, I would definitely say that is your superpower.
Yes.
Now, on the other side of the spectrum from superpower, what would you say your writing or creative nemesis is? So the thing that sort of impacts you in a challenging way, let's say.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's something that ties directly, I guess, into the stories that I've written, more so in Find Your Treasure, where I get to speak a little bit at a higher level. So my nemesis is what I would refer to as limiting beliefs, which is basically any fearful thought that comes into your mind and tells you you can't do that. So for a long time, well, not for a long time, it was condensed, but I definitely had that limiting belief that I couldn't write a book because I'm not an author. And it was a bit of a funny process to kind of go through, because I then did a bit of research and found out that there were many incredible authors in history who started out as mathematicians or doctors and wrote a story. I think The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, that was one of the first stories. C.S. Lewis, is that right?
Yes, yeah.
Wrote. So it's funny that I went through that process myself of feeling all those limiting beliefs and then having to let them go and not be afraid, basically. So, and that's something I actually write in Find Your Treasure, is how to blow those fearful thoughts out of your mind.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that. We won't spoil it too much for people. No. It's such a good story. And it's just, it is those those limiting beliefs, which in a lot of authors presents itself as imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And, I'm not good enough and that sort of thing. And particularly if you're just starting out, being able to say those words about yourself and say, oh, I am an author, even just putting it up on your website, Kate Searle, author. It's just like, oh my God, how can I call myself an author? Blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
But if you've written something, you're an author. And now you happen to be a published author.
Yes.
And, it's just one step up, isn't it? So
that's right.
But those limiting beliefs, oh man, they're so hard to get past.
Oh, they are. That's right. But we have to do it. Otherwise, we just stay in that place of fear for our whole life. So it's so important. And it's different, I found, for different people. I have a friend who started a very successful baby food business, and she shared with me once her limiting beliefs before she started her journey. So it's not specific just to authors or writers. That is probably across the world, that people are on the precipice of entering into a new career and feel that they can't do that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And just say, as an ex-teacher, it happens to teachers every time you change to a different grade or you change to a different school, and all of a sudden you feel that you can't teach and you're not as good as everybody else. And and I think it is a matter of just that sort of innate challenge to push past it and say,
that's right, and let it go. Just acknowledge that they're not part of you. Those fearful thoughts, you can just literally let them go.
Yes.
And then I like to then try and fill up with some positive, inspiring thoughts immediately afterwards. So which
absolutely. And
definitely find your treasure.
On positive, inspiring thoughts, tell us a little bit more about My Soul Treasure.
Right. Well, My Soul Treasure, as you know, Kelly, was actually the second story that I wrote. I started, I took some time off during COVID, probably like many people during this, what is now being called the Great Reset, to spend more time at home with my young children, who were then 3 and 5, so very young. And I spent a lot of time playing games with them, making up games, and just remember that is what makes me happy, is spending that time with them. So I created my own game in that time called Find Your Treasure, which is actually up here. Excellent. And is the prototype of the game, which will soon be available to teachers and to parents to buy on my website. I
cannot wait to see that. And that you can play that after reading the book, before reading the book, everything. It's just all, it's all in one program. Love it.
And so my children at the time wanted to know what the gemstones and jewels, which are a part of the game, really meant. And it really sparked for me that wonderful creative journey that I embarked on of trying my best to explain to my children that they have a wealth of treasure inside them. And when they discover that treasure themselves, it will empower them. They will feel excited to embrace and express their treasure. And so I began the process of writing, which was Find Your Treasure, the draft that you know, Kelly, and I have something to show you today, which I'll try and describe as well for those who are listening to the podcast. But if you take like a little bit of a journey back into my mind, at the time I was a geologist working in a corporate role in the city, just having some time off work. And then before I knew it, I had a full-blown story just pouring into my mind, and I didn't really know what to do with it. But one day I found myself accidentally stuck, locked myself out of the house, and out of that was a box. And luckily I had a pen in my handbag, and this is literally the beginning of Find Your Treasure.
Oh my God. So what we've got there is literally a cardboard box with Kate's writing all over the flaps and her ideas, and there's writing, there's scribble outs.
I think my children came and helped to draw some pieces. So
it's the perfect first draft, isn't it? And I'm so impressed that you kept that.
That box is so special to me. I think my husband came home and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I think I'm writing a book."
Oh, I love it. That is so cool, because you hear, like, I've heard of other authors who've, suddenly had an idea in a cafe. So, and the only thing they've got to write on is like the back of a coaster or a serviette or something like that. And I know that they do keep those because, those first drafts are gold usually. And often they're as well.
Yes, I know. But, it's that process of when you start to write it down, and especially you've got to let those ideas pour out.
Yes.
So you can't keep them in your mind. Start writing. And that's what I did. And I think it was when I'd written I would have been on probably the third draft of Find Your Treasure before it really sunk in that this wasn't a picture book that I was writing.
Yes, yeah. I remember that moment actually when we're sort of going through, and it's like, oh my God, you've got a couple of stories in here. I think that bit there would make a really good picture book. And then all of a sudden it's just like, boof. And it just seems like overnight that you went from that stage to, hey, I've got my picture and I've got an illustrator and blah, blah, blah. And just on that with the illustrations, which are absolutely, absolutely stunning illustrations. drawn by Alison Mutton, who's a local Perth illustrator, book illustrator.
Yes, that's right.
So most, and I don't know whether people out there actually know this. I know a lot of people who don't work in the industry certainly don't know, but most picture book authors don't get to meet their illustrator. They certainly don't get to talk to them or share the journey together or collaborate together. Whereas in your journey, that was quite different. So you actually worked quite closely with Alison Mutton on the illustrations. Can you just describe that a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. And that was another aspect, I guess, that my journey's been different, because I was unaware of that fact until I think you told me that most authors don't get to meet the illustrator they're working with, which to me, I think coming from like a corporate role for a large mining company where collaboration is very highly prized and encouraged to create anything that we get done. And it really was a beautiful collaboration. From the moment I first met Alison, who is a very fantastic, accomplished illustrator here in Perth.
Very talented, yeah.
Very talented. And described my stories to her, which at the beginning was Find Your Treasure and then later My Soul Treasure. She just has this magical ability to take what I would literally sketch out with a little stick man of the idea that I was imagining. For example, in My Soul Treasure, there's an image of the little girl looking in the mirror, and I'd drawn my little stick figure of how I wanted that sort of shot to look. And then she just turns into the magical illustration that you get to see.
So did she have, because often too you hear, like, you know, illustrators will add something extra to the story, or they'll come up with an illustration that blows the author out of the water because it's something you hadn't thought of. Did you have any of those moments with Alison?
Definitely. So I guess it's so descriptive and lyrical, the text, that a lot of the words sort of would guide Alison in what illustration I'd like to see in that image. But it was definitely a collaboration in the sense that she would say, this is what I am, imagining, this is what I'm envisioning. And exactly. I would just say, okay, this is going to be amazing. And then we'd go back through it together. And my books are not short on sparkles, as you can see. I think she's just recently said about Find Your Treasure, the book, this is the most sparkle she's ever drawn into a book. But
I love it.
It's very magical. It has the beautiful the qualities that inspire you and spark something in you, which
it definitely is. Like the illustrations in My Soul Treasure are just this explosion of color, and there's so much to see and to delve into, and it's warm. So on that, do you, and I know this is going to be difficult, and every day you've probably got a different favorite, but do you have a favorite section, a favorite part, favorite gemstone, favorite color in your book that you could read out to us?
Sure, I definitely do. And as you know, and for your listeners, when they look through this book, it is so beautifully illustrated, and it progresses through beautiful double spread, colourful illustrations from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and white. And each of those double page spreads is filled with imagery in those colours and the associated gemstones, so rubies, opals, diamonds, emeralds, sapphires, amethysts, and pearls.
Oh, very good.
It's very difficult to pick a favourite, but today I'd have to say, and it does change on a daily basis. Today, I'd love to share with you the diamond spread.
Oh, beautiful. And for people who can't see, it's this gorgeous explosion of yellows and rich yellows and what I can see, sandcastles and sunflowers, and the little girl in the story just standing there with her head up to the sun and her arms spread out in pure joy.
That's right.
That is what I'm getting from that.
It is, and I'll read it out to you. I'd love to read it out to you. This page is diamond sparkle yellow, like sunshine scattered across the sea, dewdrops on sunflowers, sandy castles, pineapple popsicles, and bunches of bananas bending in the breeze. They are my happiness gems inside my soul. When you feel sad or low, know your soul diamonds will shine bright, surrounding you in a bubble of sparkly yellow light. Enjoy the sunshine. Feel your soul expand and say, I am happy and confident.
Oh, I love that. And you can feel it welling up inside you, actually, when you read those words.
Yes.
And I love, what is it, the pineapple popsicles, and just your use of alliteration in there is just, it just flows beautifully. So why today is that your favorite section?
That one, I think of the inspiration. I remember the moment that I came up with the line, sunshine scattered across the sea. I had my husband next to me in the car, and we were in one of those moments which many parents could relate to, where both kids had fallen asleep in the back and we weren't going anywhere. So we were on holidays down south, and we were parked up at the top of a lookout point in Margaret River, and we were looking down at the ocean, and it was just spectacular. And I really saw the sunshine scattered across the sea, and it reminded me of, imagine if someone had just thrown a handful of diamonds and they were bouncing across the ocean. So
wow, that visual image is so powerful, and it's so true. Like I can see that there just in the way you've described it. Okay, so can I share my favorite?
Yes, definitely.
I might get you to show it, because with the Zoom background, it's going to totally disappear. So my favorite part is this page here. It's the rubies page. And we've got the little girl there sitting covered up in this snuggly red blanket with, what is that little creature? It looks like a little frog, but I don't want to, is it a...
And that's the part, he's actually he's a dragonfly.
Yes, okay.
And you would know that he's going to be, or he is, a very important character in my next book. So
absolutely. Oh, and he appears on every page.
He does.
Of the book too. So I love this. These are these little pops of, illustrator greatness that that come into books. Anyway, so it's the page is filled with sparkles and beautiful red flowers and ladybirds, and it's just the page, it just feels warm and comforting, doesn't it? So what it says, and I love these words: rubies dazzle red like sweet cherry blossom buds, poppy fields, apple trees, fresh strawberries, and flitter flutter ladybugs. They are my cozy gems inside my soul. When you feel scared or alone, know your soul rubies will shine bright, surrounding you in a bubble of rosy red light. Snuggle down, feel your soul expand, and say, I am safe and sound. And it just, those words are just like a blanket being wrapped around you. And I have to say, obviously, I choose the red page because people who know me know that, I like red, and red, it just jumps out. I did try to choose a different page, and I just kept going back to the rubies page. But I love just those images of the poppy fields, the apple trees, the strawberries, and I am a hugest fan of onomatopoeia, and I love flitter flutter ladybugs. It's just, I love saying it. So beautiful page. And honestly, like Kate and I, we were discussing this before, every day you ask me what my favorite page is, you ask Kate what her favorite page is, it'll be different, because I think it goes with your mood, doesn't it?
You're right, exactly. And that's in a way part of the intention too, that you could, which you and I have spoken about before, this is the type of book that you could either read from the first page to the last, or you could just hold open in a class or at home and read one page and really soak in that beautiful feeling.
Yeah, exactly. It's that sort of book in the classroom at home. You can use it in so many ways, and just, first and foremost, enjoy it. But so many different options for how to use it. Now moving on, your upcoming junior fiction book, which is hopefully coming out soon-ish.
Very soon. Alison is illustrating she's on the final illustration. So
this is so exciting. So Find Your Treasure. as you mentioned before, was written before My Soul Treasure, and it's what sort of birthed My Soul Treasure, I suppose, if you
That's
like.
right.
Can you tell us just give us a little hint about
Sure.
about this book? Get us excited about it.
Sure. It's an adventure story, and it's for children aged probably 7 upwards, and it's very exciting. So it's a brother and sister in their bedroom at night having trouble sleeping, and a magical dragonfly suddenly appears in their room and then grows bigger and bigger and bigger, which you'll read about. And he takes them, they jump on his back and they fly off through the roof out into the midnight sky and go on a magical journey around the world, looking for their treasure. So they fly around the world, they meet magical creatures, they learn many things about their mind and their body and their hearts, which covers their thoughts, their energy and their emotions. And all along they're looking for their treasure that lies inside. So I won't give any more away because I feel like it's a very exciting book to read.
Oh yes, absolutely. And it is. Yeah, I feel really privileged that I actually know this story, and I'm sitting here and I'm busting and I'm like, oh, tell them this bit, tell them. It's like, no, they have to wait. People have to wait. But it is, like you said, an adventure story. You've got your fantasy elements. It's funny characters. And it's got that little bit of everything. And you can read it in tandem with My Soul Treasure, but they both stand alone as well.
That's right. They're definitely, when the readers read Find Your Treasure who've read My Soul Treasure, they'll see the links. So there's definitely links between the two, which is was the intention all along, because Find Your Treasure was the main story, like that I wrote. So I wanted My Soul Treasure to be a snapshot for younger readers to be able to share in that as well.
Yes.
But Find Your Treasure, I really got to fully embrace that amazing fun process of writing and creating the story.
What's interesting, I find it like we're always asking, or publishers and booksellers are asking us to put like an age range on these books. So you've said, okay, Find Your Treasure, 7 and up, that sort of thing. But if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, you've got younger children, this is the sort of book you could definitely read to them, read with them.
Definitely.
The messages are in there for everybody, but for children 7 and up who are more independent readers, the book is great for them.
Absolutely. And I've found that with My Soul Treasure in particular, not to give it an older age limit, because I've now changed it to say it's from 3 up. I'm finding, particularly in classrooms, that say grade 4, they love it as much as the pre-primary.
Absolutely, because each age takes something different from the story, and they might just be enjoying the colors, they might be enjoying the words or whatever. But for me, picture books shouldn't have an age limit. Right. And you've heard me say that before, and other people have heard me say that before. Picture books are for everybody, and everybody can take something different out of them.
Yes.
Anyway, back to my little list of questions. We're nearly done. Back to what was the original focus of these YouTube series that I was wanting to do. How do you get into the writing zone? Like, you often hear as an ex-teacher, I'd often hear children say, oh, I don't know what to write, or I don't feel like writing, or whatever. And as an author, you certainly feel like that all the time. It's sometimes you just need to do something to get into the zone. So what do you do? What's your creative process when you're writing?
Definitely. And mine might be a little bit different to everyone, but this is the the fun part of your series, in that you're going to end up hearing all these different ways that different authors get into their zone, and mine definitely involves meditating. So
I love that.
I will choose one of my favorite gemstones, which the one I wanted to show you today is this beautiful light blue one here. It's called celestite.
Beautiful.
And when I hold that, I get a very calming feeling. I feel very calm, and it helps to clear my thoughts. And then I'll go sit out on my back porch. I like to be outside when I do most of my writing, which I don't know why, but I find it difficult inside. I find it a lot easier outside on the back veranda.
Yeah.
And first I'll do a meditation. So to me, that involves like clearing my mind. And then I have a bit of a process that I go through. And then once I kind of feel that I drop into that zone, I really just listen to my inspiration, my soul. And to feel, what should I write next? On a step-by-step basis. So you don't try and get a whole entire story out. And especially when I was writing Find Your Treasure, there's many magical creatures in it that the readers will, encounter when they read it. But I didn't know all those three when I started writing. I just focused on what's going to be the next one and what will I have to say. And then once I got through writing that section, then I meditated again and thought, what's going to be the next creature?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. So it's that process of just, because I know a lot of people, they might not realize it, but they get overwhelmed with thinking, okay, I've got to produce this whole thing. So you just say, take it step by step, do what you're capable of. And I suppose the same thing applies to that, if you sit down to write and you've done your meditation or whatever you need to do to get into your zone, and it's just not working for you, what do you do then?
Go for a walk.
Yeah.
So, and I'll often pop a gemstone in my pocket. I'm generally
I love it.
Never have one with me, so I'll show you another one. This is a little soda light.
Oh, that's pretty.
So yes, he's gorgeous, isn't he? So I'll pop one in my pocket, and I will take the pressure off, if you like. Mm-hmm. Don't try and force it. And I go for a big walk, get outside in nature, really try and empty my thoughts, allow it, just to give myself a break, if you like. I'm trying to force it. And really, I think through that process of getting outside in nature, going for a walk, it does help you to clear your mind. And before you know it, generally it's happened, it's my experience, that I'd have one little inkling of something exciting that I wanted to write about, and then I'd find I couldn't wait to get home just to go in and start jotting down faster. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Can be a bit difficult, I think, in schools when they're so structured with their curriculum. It's like, okay, this is our writing time, you must write during this time. It sort of almost screams for the need for a much more flexible day, doesn't it?
It definitely does. And at least an outdoor venture to go outside, get some inspiration, come back in in 5 minutes, and then start writing.
Yes. And it is that pressure, I think, in schools where you've got to have these many pages done and that sort of thing. It's not conducive to good writing, I don't think. So anyway, and I think as adults, we're very lucky that we can make those choices. But I think for teachers, I think those choices can be made as well. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
There's a good, I think my daughter's teacher came up with this idea, which I found fantastic. You probably might have experienced before in your career, to have an ideas book for kids. Yes. So a little ideas book where they jot down, and perhaps those ideas might come at different parts of the time, of their week or their day, and they can write little sentences or a little plot or something that's interesting. And then if they are stuck and they're in their class and they have that set time, they can flick through their little inspiration book or their ideas book and remember, there was something that what about a magical, so they can have, kind of a little ideas book.
Yeah, that is such a good suggestion. So any teachers who are watching this, give that a go, because I think that's a great idea. And a lot of authors do that as well. They have their ideas book. Okay, so this is the section I'm really looking forward to. What are your top 3 tips for anyone, whether they're adults, whether they're children, whoever, your top 3 tips for anyone who wants to become a storyteller, wants to write, wants to create stories?
Definitely. So my number 1 tip is try meditating, especially if you haven't done it before, because it's just a different way of clearing your thoughts, calming yourself, communicating with your own soul, and really getting that inspiration from within. So you're looking within for your ideas. Tip number 2 is get outside. So
yes.
go for a walk, but also take your little notepad and a pen, or your phone, but preferably something tangible. Take your paper and a pen and go outside. I definitely found it valuable. I wrote a lot of Find Your Treasure at the bike park while my son was riding his bike. I'd go lie in the park sometimes if I could sneak a little moment away from the kids, and just let those ideas start flowing without a need to perfect them. And I find that when you're outside, the ideas just come and they'll flow through you. The third tip, which is my favorite, is visualize your story as a movie. So imagine that your story, you're going to be watching one day at the cinema, because it really helps you to see the detail and then realize what detail you have to write into your story. So for example, when I was writing Find Your Treasure, there's an epic scene, they're flying to Mount Everest, and I clearly can see in my mind what the color of the sky was, what the mountains looked like, how, I guess, cold the wind felt, which is a feeling you get from watching something. So really visualize it as you're writing.
It is. And yeah, we talk always about, bringing in all the senses and that sort of thing. And that's, that visualization can really help. And I suppose that comes through the meditation as well.
Yes.
It's like having that quiet moment. I love that. And I did say to Kate before we started, try to make your top 3 tips a little bit different from other people. And you certainly have done that.
Oh, good.
So that's good. And being first cab off the rank, absolutely perfect. So how would you like to be remembered, Kate?
I would love to be remembered as someone who created something that really was a timeless book, all my books and my games, to be picked up by any generation, by any individual, and inspires them to connect with the soul and to really feel empowered, to feel that sense that no matter what happens in the world outside, I'm filled with power, and all of that power lies in my soul.
Oh, I love that.
That would be.
Absolutely love that. And too, I mean, both of the books, actually, they're timeless as well. So it's not like, in 20 years' time, kids will be reading the book and going, oh, this is a bit, it's old person stuff. So yeah, it's absolutely perfect for that. Now, where can people go to find out more about your books and about you?
Sure. So at the moment, they can look on Instagram at my soul treasure. Sorry, it's at soul treasure _. That's fine. I'll share that with you. And my website's being made, so I'll launch that all through my Instagram so that people can find me there.
Excellent.
My soul treasure is currently available for sale on Booktopia, Book Depository, Amazon, you name it, any online bookseller, Angus and Robertson's,
Barnes and Noble as well, I think.
Barnes and Noble,
watching from yes. So that's fantastic. I definitely recommend that you check it out and grab a copy or 2 of this beautiful book. Now, before we sign off today, have you got any final words of wisdom for people, for me, for anybody?
Final words of wisdom for everyone, for children, for adults, is to believe in yourself. Because
I love that. Yes,
we are all absolutely phenomenal and incredible human beings, and we have the capacity within ourselves to create, to do so many amazing things, to share our gifts and our love with everyone. So the most important thing is just to believe in yourself.
Yeah, I love that. That is a really nice note to end on, and you certainly believed in yourself to produce this book, and the upcoming Find Your Treasure. So thank you so much for your time. I always love chatting to you.
Oh, thank you.
The time
I enjoy our
I've got
time.
no idea how long we've been on here, but it's just gone really quickly. And I can't wait to see what you and Alison have come up with for Find Your Treasure. It's going to be fantastic. Thank you so much.
I can't wait to share that with you all.
Yeah, and I will share all of the links when I share the YouTube and share it out on the socials and that sort of thing. So keep an eye out for that. And everybody have a fantastic day. Thank you so much. Bye, Kate.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.